And welcome back, Bill Bubba Bussey, for a brand new hour. Bubba, how are you?
Rick, glad to be here, and thank all of you for being part of the Rick and Bubba family.
The L.A. premiere was last night of the movie Woodlawn. We've been talking about it quite a bit on the program for obvious reasons. We're tied to the story through some of the family members here on the program, and Lance Nichols is in the movie. He's been in a number of TV shows and movies. You've seen him quite a bit, and you'll see him playing the role of Tony Nathan's father in Woodlawn. And Lance joins us now on the Rick and Bubba Show. Lance, how you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Good morning, guys. How are you?
Well, very good. Honored to have you on the show, sir.
It really is, and I know you come from the New Orleans area, and I was wondering when you started hearing about this role. I mean, obviously here, my father coached at Woodlawn, and he and Tandy Gerald's were dear friends. As a matter of fact, when my dad took the next coaching job that he took, that's how Tandy Gerald's became the head football coach at Woodlawn. So I grew up in that environment as a little boy in the 60s and then going into the early to mid-70s. But I wondered, were you familiar with this story at all, Lance, when they first started auditioning people for the roles? Did you know about it at all?
No, I didn't, but I had worked on two previous films with the directors, John and Andy Irwin.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And when I was in Birmingham a couple of years ago shooting one of those projects, a Mom's Night Out,
right.
John and Andy pulled me aside and they told me about this project that they wanted to do in a couple of years, and they told me the story. Now, I'd heard about Tony Nathan. I knew that
Sure.
Tony played for University of Alabama, and he also played for the Miami Dolphins, but I didn't know the story. And when they told me the story, and they said, look, if we have artistic control over casting, we want you to play Tony's dad. And I said, I'd be honored. And so here we are.
Lance, we've seen you on the screen a lot of times, and we got to looking at the list of shows and movies. And, I mean, you've been at this a while and been in some pretty major episodes and of series and movies. And, but none is bigger to Rick than Give Me a Break. I'll tell you that.
Oh man! Please don't throw no pictures up of that one.
So that was back in '83.
Wow!
And I believe you were a vampire, but I won't go into it.
Yes,
How about that?
But I mean, you've been in Cheers, you've been at L.A. Law, you've been in Valerie, you've been in Murder, She Wrote. You've got quite a history here, and. So how did all that? How did you enjoy Woodlawn compared to some of these other things you've been in?
I have to tell you, it was the most rewarding experience I've ever had for a number of reasons. Number one, it's a great story. It's a true story. The cast is outstanding, as your viewers will see when they go see the film. The crew was great. I love Andy and John, but this movie is kind of personal for me for two reasons. Number one, I love the message that it has of forgiveness and redemption. But number two, I had a very strong father figure in my dad. And a lot of the problems that I think in society that we're having now, particularly with young men, particularly with young African-American men, is due to the lack of a very positive male figure in the household.
No doubt.
And so to be able to portray a man like Mr. Nathan, Jr., as they affectionately called him, to be able to portray someone like that who had a very strong and who continues to have a very strong relationship with his son was very important to me. And I've mentioned this to Andy and John many, many times. I'm hoping that a lot of men who come to see this movie, particularly younger men, will see that they have a duty to have a positive influence on their sons. I was watching, I watch Judge Mathis. And Judge Mathis, if you don't know, was a former gang member in Chicago. And here's a man who turned his life around. And in one of the episodes I was watching, he mentioned that studies have shown that the lack of a father, not the lack of a mother.
That's right.
The lack of a father in a household contributes more to juvenile delinquency and problems, not only among the son, but the daughters too. And that blew me away. I didn't know that.
Well, if you remember, Lance, and you probably know this, but it goes beyond the spiritual, but just to show the power of that male figure, because men and women are equal, but they're not same. and
Right.
there's a maternal connection that frankly the men are not in on, but that the mother provides. But here's the thing: Barna did a survey years ago, and they found that if one of the siblings in the home becomes a follower of Christ, that there was about I think it was somewhere between a 7% chance that the rest of the house would then become the followers of Christ. They looked at the mother,
Right.
and it jumped up with the mother to about 23%. And they found that if the father in the home becomes the powerful spiritual leader of the home, and he's the one that leads the house spiritually, there's a 93% chance that the entire home will follow.
Amen.
And there's a moment in this movie where you're talking to your son as Mr. Nathan, and that speech, you can tell, and I knew it, Lance. I know you're a good actor, but I knew it before you even said it. The times I've got to see screenings, he is tapping into his own father right now in this role because it's so
Yes.
real. I can tell that you are not. Yes, you're acting because you're pretending to be someone else, but it's almost like I knew watching you even acting that you had a strong father.
Yeah, you could tell.
Yeah, it's true. And my dad was a Mississippi guy, born, like in 1914, but instilled very strong spiritual values in all three of us. I have two older sisters, but also taught me what it was like to be a man, and not just in a biological sense, but a real man, a true man, and I passed a lot of those values on to my girls. I have three daughters.
Yeah.
To my three kids. So yeah, this film is at the top of the list for me, as far as my personal experience. And I've been blessed to have a very steady, solid career of 35 years.
Oh yeah.
And I never take that for granted, man, because I realize there are a lot of other people out here who've been doing this as long as I have, or some even longer than I have, who haven't had a lot of the opportunities that I have. But one of the things that I always do, guys, is whenever I'm interviewed, I have, usually the question will come up, well, you're in such a competitive field, what do you contribute your success to? And I say to the man up above, it has nothing to do with me.
Amen.
Has nothing to do with me. And the day when I believe that my success is of my doing, then I'm in trouble.
Well, it's an important film. I love that it has the budget and it has the look, because I know these films that we all want so much to see more films that have positive messages, not you walk out feeling like you've been thrown through mud and you're dirty and you had to compromise something to go and be entertained or hopefully motivated. But this movie, it looks the way it needs to look. We can't be telling people to support these movies out of guilt. It has to be out of merit, and then it just happens to have something much more important. And this film, it stands up against anything that's being put on the screen anywhere, especially sports movies of the past. But it's much more than a sports movie. As a matter of fact, that's not near the message, but it's so important, and I think you touched on something else that is almost just like another caveat of this movie, is it shows a strong male in the home, but even more importantly, a strong African-American male in the home. And that message really needs to resonate right now.
I agree. It's funny because whenever I show the trailer to people, they all say the same thing. Oh, I got goosebumps watching that.
Yeah.
It's one of the most powerful trailers that I've ever seen. And I've watched it probably 50 times. And every time I see it, the hair stands up on my arms every time I see it, because it has such a powerful message and such a timely message when you think about the what's happening in the country now, with the racial issues.
Oh, yeah.
And it's I told John and Andy last year, I said, this movie cannot come out fast enough.
Right, and boy, we've been talking about it, and my oldest son is actually in the movie. He plays Mike Allison, the fullbaup, and
yes,
yeah,
I think I met him one day.
yeah,
on set.
Blake
Yes.
Blake Burgess, and he enjoyed meeting you, and I appreciate him getting the opportunity to work with somebody that's been in the business and has been successful. That will only help him. So thanks for that.
No, my pleasure.
All right, well, Lance, we're looking forward to it. It can't. Well, you said it best. It can't get here quick enough.
Amen.
And the L.A. premiere was last night. My son was able to be there, and he said the response from the audience was fantastic. And it opens nationwide the 16th of October. It's going to be on over about 2,000 theaters, so big release.
That's right.
All
That's
right.
right. And I hope I see you guys next Thursday at the Birmingham premiere.
Oh, yeah, we'll be there.
We'll be there.
We'll be there next Thursday night, so look forward to seeing you again, Lance. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll be right back.
Rick and Bubba, Rick and Bubba.